Something walks the remote places, but it's learned a terrifying new trick. A concept is only as frightening as the unknown details that surround it. In our first journey into these reports, we outlined a pattern of encounters with a being drawn from ancient tradition, an entity described as unnaturally fast, a perfect mimic, and a solitary hunter of the lonely American backcountry. Those accounts were deeply troubling, yet they only represented the first chapter. Since then, a chilling new collection of testimonies has surfaced, stories that suggest this phenomenon is not only real, but becoming more brazen in its methods. Some time back, we pieced together initial sightings from law enforcement, tradespeople, and isolated families. Each described a predator that didn't just scare, but seemed to study its prey. Those cases opened a door. What has come through since is a flood of corroborating details from across the region. The common threads are impossible to ignore. A shape lingering just beyond the reach of a flashlight. The crunch of deliberate footsteps on frozen earth. Forms that look almost human, but are distorted in ways that trigger a primal alarm. Witness after witness recounts identical sensations. The paralyzing feeling of being observed, the dread of being pursued, the horror of hearing a loved one's voice beckoning from an empty night. The power here lies not in the volume of accounts, but in their stark uniformity. These are people separated by hundreds of miles, by background, by life experience. Yet, when forced to articulate the impossible, they sketch the same monstrous silhouette. They speak of a gait that defies normal anatomy, of eyes that shine with a predatory awareness, and of voices that replicate family members with cruel precision. For them, the encounter isn't just a scary story, it's a line crossed, the start of a lingering dread that they were singled out by an intelligence they cannot comprehend. It doesn't just haunt the land, it learns the people upon it. Tonight, we examine 4 such incidents. Each unfolds in a unique location with different people involved, yet they are bound by a disturbing coherence, the undeniable sense that something ancient, clever, and profoundly hostile is still hunting the shadowed corners of the Southwest. Whether this is one creature or a category of nightmare remains a mystery. For those who lived it, the danger was absolute. In the deep winter of 2010, an anonymous family on a rural Utah homestead endured a sequence of events that shattered their peace. Their house sat miles from neighbors, surrounded by woods and fields that seemed serene under a blanket of December snow, but felt profoundly vulnerable after sunset. The cold that year was brutal, driving them indoors early. The first strange event happened on a Sunday, just past 9. Snow fell silently as the youngest, a 9-year-old boy, went out for firewood. The family dog, a loyal golden retriever, always joined him. This night, it froze on the porch, muscles tense, staring into the tree line. It wouldn't budge. Then a bark echoed from the far property line, a perfect copy of their dog's bark. The boy turned, confused, seeing his actual pet still trembling on the porch. Another bark rang out, this time from near the barn. He called for his parents in a panic. They calmed him, blaming coyotes, but the dog's behavior troubled them deeply. The next midnight, a heavy thud against the house's outer wall woke everyone. The father investigated, finding the yard untouched. No fallen branches, no animal tracks. Just one smooth, deep depression in the snow beside the wall, as if something heavy had leaned there, then vanished without a trace. 2 nights later, things grew worse. The The mother was in the kitchen making drinks when she heard a soft tap on the window. She looked, expecting her husband. Her own reflection stared back, but wrong. The features were blurred by frost, but the skin was pallid, and the eyes caught the kitchen light with an animalistic glow. She screamed. Her husband rushed out, but the snow below the window was pristine, no footprints. Yet she never wavered in her story. They didn't call the police, fearing ridicule. They just kept the blinds shut after dark. A relative calm held for a few days. Then, on December 23rd, the father went out to secure the shed. The cold bit his lungs as he crunched through snow. Reaching the shed, he heard the dog whining behind him. He glanced back. The animal was on the porch. The whining continued from his left. Then a voice, soft and familiar, called his name. It sounded exactly like his wife. He took a step toward the sound. It called again, closer now, but twisted, strained. He stopped, realizing the snow around him was unmarked. As he backed toward the house, a tall form materialized at the field's edge. Its arms hung too long, its posture was a forward stoop, and its head seemed to waver, not holding a solid shape. It stepped forward. He ran. As he fled, the voice changed, now imitating his young daughter, crying for help in a tone she'd never used. The family spent the night huddled together, listening to something drag long nails slowly across the entire length of the house siding, back and forth for hours. The dog cowered under furniture. At dawn, they found a single line of shallow prints leading to the fields, each stride impossibly long. They moved away that spring. This was no accidental visit. It was a targeted campaign. In the late 1990s, retired Navajo Ranger Edward Nez was asked to follow up on a series of concerning welfare checks for an elderly couple, Thomas and Evelyn Yazzie, who lived near Mexican water. Their daughter had contacted rangers repeatedly, worried about things her parents hinted at but wouldn't fully explain. Only through patience did Nez grasp the truth. The couple kept sheep near a dry wash behind their home. The trouble started in late summer when Evelyn awoke to gentle knocking on the living room window. No one was there. A week later, she heard her name whispered from outside, sometimes in her husband's voice, sometimes her sister's. She wrote it off as imagination, but the disturbances multiplied. One evening, she saw a tall, dark figure standing motionless in the yard. It vanished when she looked away. Around this time, Thomas began sleepwalking again, a habit from his youth. Evelyn would find him standing in doorways, listening to a silent signal. The most terrifying moment came on an autumn night. Evelyn woke to the sound of slow, regular footsteps on the gravel outside her window. They paced a set path, pausing at each end. She rose to look. A shadowy figure was walking the yard, its movements deliberate, rehearsed. She turned to wake Thomas and found his side of the bed empty. Looking into the hall, she saw him sleepwalking, pacing the corridor's length. His stride, his pauses, his turns were a perfect silent mirror of the figure outside the window. She stood frozen, witnessing this impossible synchronization before gently rousing him. She later broke down trying to tell their daughter. Nez saw the faint impressions in the gravel and witnessed Thomas's odd tilted gait himself. The activity faded with the cold weather, but that synchronized moment never left Evelyn. Nez closed the file with no official conclusion. In his personal notes, he wrote that something beyond understanding had focused its attention on the home. Some things watched not from the shadows, but from within the mind itself. In February 2014, highway worker Jacob Thorne, 46, was plowing a remote ridge road during a heavy snowstorm. He was used to lonely winter shifts, but that night the silence felt dense, oppressive. Around 9 p.m., in a high, exposed section, he saw a shape at the very edge of his headlights. It vanished into the snow swirl. Minutes later, it was back, a dark outline walking the center line, always staying just ahead of the plow. It disappeared in whiteouts, reappeared in clear moments. Then his radio crackled with what sounded like his supervisor's voice, reporting a stalled vehicle ahead. The transmission was brief, static-filled. Thorne acknowledged, but got no follow-up. He pushed on, the storm worsening. He then noticed a new detail. A single line of footprints would materialize on the road just before his blade passed over them. They looked human, but the stride was too long, the impressions too deep. The plow would erase them, and the rearview mirror showed only fresh snow. For half an hour, this pattern held. A shadow ahead, footprints appearing, a presence guiding him. It wasn't until he started down the far side of the ridge that it changed. Rounding a bend, his lights illuminated a figure standing directly in the road, motionless. He slammed the brakes, the plow shuddering to a stop. The figure was gone. Thorne stepped out into the biting wind. There was no one, but he saw the tracks, a straight line of fresh prints leading towards his cab, ending right at the blade. Whatever it was had been walking directly at him. There were no prints leading away. He reported it the next morning. His supervisor had made no calls that night. No other vehicles were in the area. The storm had been too severe. Thorne later only noted the footprints were perfectly spaced, as if each step was carefully measured. Almost exactly a year later, in February 2015, a family in northern New Mexico faced a terror that redefined their world. They lived near Miller's Creek, with woods and old ranch buildings nearby. The parents had 3 kids, Megan, 19, Evan, 13, and Hannah, 9. On a cold, clear afternoon, Hannah went to play near the woods. When her mother called her an hour later, she was gone. Only her small footprints led into the pines. Panic set in. A search party formed as light faded. Megan, knowing the area well, followed the old creek road with a flashlight. Near some derelict outbuildings, her light swept across an abandoned farmhouse. In the doorway, she saw Hannah step inside. Megan was sure. She ran in, calling. The house was freezing, dark, and empty. She searched every ground floor room. Nothing. As she turned to leave, she felt a light, deliberate tap on her shoulder. It felt human. She spun, shining her light down the hall. At the far end, framed in a doorway, stood a tall, thin figure. It was utterly still. The torch beam caught 2 eyes, set too high, reflecting a flat, inorganic gleam. The rest was shadow. It didn't move. It just watched. Megan fled. Hours later, Hannah was found wandering near the creek, cold but safe. She said she'd gone into the woods because she heard Evan calling, saying he was hurt. She'd followed the voice until she was lost. Evan, however, had been with the search party the entire time. He never called for her. Megan refused to talk about the figure in the house. She only said it definitely wasn't her sister. The farmhouse was later demolished. Neither girl will speculate on what mimicked their brother or what was waiting in the dark. These encounters leave behind no physical evidence, only echoes, a voice that shouldn't be heard, a form that walks like a man but isn't, tracks that defy explanation. Is it a trick of the winter wilderness or a glimpse of a predator that has always been here? Those who've survived share an unshakable conviction. They believe something walks these empty spaces, something that observes, selects, and perfects its imitation. And if it has watched them, what's to say it isn't watching right now? If these stories unsettled you, give this video a like and make sure you're subscribed to The Last Dose. Your support helps us bring these hidden truths to light. Tell us in the comments, which encounter chilled you the most?